Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So we're back again with another update to the tier list. So this is going to be April's tier list. I am not including the two champions that are set to come out this month, obviously, because we still have very little idea exactly where they're going to land. But I have added in Omega Sentinel and Captain Britain Betsy. And the story of those two champions is almost, contrastingly opposite to each other. Before we get any further in this video, once again, I have to start with a disclaimer so people don't get the wrong idea about this tier list and why it exactly looks the way it does. So first and foremost, this tier list is a mixture of my personal views of the game and the current game relevance and trends. Please do not use this list as a point of argument, but more as a food for thought. Each summoner has different needs and preferences that far outweigh the importance of this list. I personally always advocate for target goal-oriented rank ups. Please rank champions that will help you get where you are trying to go and do not blindly follow this list or any other. If you need somebody to help you with a specific variant, rank up a champion that will do that. If you need help in Alliance Quest, rank up with a champion that will help you in Alliance Quest. If you need to improve your Alliance War defense, rank up a champion that will do that. That is how this game is meant to function. Rank up a champion that's going to help you explore a variant, explore that variant, rank up another champion, so on and so forth. Target goal-oriented rank ups are the way to go. And obviously then whenever, as and when, rank up champions that you just love and enjoy. Do not listen to what anybody else says about those champions. If you like that champion, go with it, so on and so forth. That being said, this top list only includes champions that are available as 6-star. Every time I post this video, somebody asks where's Quake or where's Blade or where's Magic, something like that. They're down here. They are down here. This is basically where they would be if they would be available as 6-stars. Because currently we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 champions in the game that are not available as 6-stars. That are in this list. And now I have made some other changes to the list. We do have a new promotion to top of the game. I do think we have a new promotion to meta as well, a new promotion to frequently useful, and we actually, jiggled it a bit. But I do plan on changing it up a bit more, and I will right now kind of like go over few of the bigger changes that I'm thinking of making, and I do want to hear your feedback on that as well. At the moment, I do feel that Professor X is kind of falling behind from being top of the game. I still think he's absolutely a fantastic champion. It's just currently I do not see him used too much in top tier wars, in top tier Alliance Quest. You do not see him too much in Act 7 and things like that. So I do think that obviously he's still extremely capable, but it's a mixture of his low health pool and a relatively high skill cap that's kind of keeping people away from him. Obviously, him also being notoriously one of the least Liquid Courage Top Ledge friendly champions. So I am currently thinking of putting him back down to meta alongside Captain America Infinity War. I do think that Captain America Infinity War has seen some decline in use, and even though I do personally think he's still extremely capable champion and he likely should be there, but we also do need to reflect the current trends in the game. And I do think he is as popular at the moment, and that's largely because of the Sigstone/Prestige situation, I think. But I do think that Cap Infinity War will end up going down to meta, and potentially, we do have few promotions that I'm currently looking at as well, namely Mr. Fantastic. I do see Mr. Fantastic increasing amounts pretty much in all of the game modes, so I do think that perhaps it's time for him to go to top of the game. Perhaps Spider-Man 2099 as well. And then we are looking at Nimrod and Ultron, both of whom I also think at the moment would be more accurately reflective as top of the game champions, because Ultron has always been borderline there, and I do think that obviously the added attention that he got from being one of the best options, if not the best option for 7.4 boss, is just going to end up with many more people using him, and Nimrod's just tearing through everything. That being said, those are kind of like the most important proposed changes that I'm kind of thinking for the next month, along a few other reshuffles here in lower tiers. But that just shows that the game is changing, and my opinion is changing on these champions, and I want it to be as reflective of how I see the game as possible, and as accurate as possible, obviously. That being said, let's discuss the new champions. Now we have Omega Sentinel. That's amazing. Obviously, very large part of the initial attention that she's receiving is due to the prestige, and there's no denying it. She broke all of the arena records. People went crazy on Cavs, and fact of the matter still remains that she does look to be extremely capable champion. Now, I'll be honest, at the moment, I'm not entirely sure whether she's going to remain in meta or maybe going to go down to frequently useful, because there's definitely an absolute truckload of utility. The slight problem with the Meg Sentinel is that there is quite a lot of timer watching, there's quite a lot of complexity to her playstyle, and quite often that prevents champions from doing their best in like competitive game modes, even though they could technically be the answers for those fights. You just often are inclined to go with champions that are more easily manageable. That being said, I do think that because she has gotten so much spotlight, people will go learn her and, get used to it. And when it comes to piece of utility, I do think that she answers several things that no other top tech champions answer. Namely, if we take a look at Ghost, Warlock, and Ultron as the champions, Ghost, Warlock, Ultron, and Nimrod specifically, then none of those champions can counter miss, which is an important part of the game, which Omega Sentinel does handily. So I do think that obviously that's benefit to her. Additionally to that, no other top tier tech champion has immunity to nullify, which can be extremely important against Buffet, against Power Snack, a bunch of other nodes, Mystic opponents. So I can easily see her remaining in meta and working as an excellent complementary champion to your standard tech that you end up bringing in the quest and using, and then tagging in for when these specific pieces of utility are needed. Because again, no other top tier tech champion is immune to nullify, fate seal, and all of that stuff. No other top tier tech champion is able to bypass miss. And then alongside all of that else, obviously she has her access to incinerates or plasmas. She has her immunities to bleed poison and all the other stuff, obviously, that typically makes tech champions good. So I do have a feeling that that is where she's likely going to stay for a while. But, obviously, again, it's still very early days and impossible to tell for sure. That being said, we have Captain Britain Betsy, which is a completely opposite story. Now, I do know that there are some people that are slowly kind of getting into her a bit, but well, first of all, let's just call it how it is. She's completely overshadowed by Meg Sentinel this month. Second of all, I do think that there are fair amount of problems with using the champion and her rotation. And the way I personally currently look at Captain Britain Betsy is that she's good at the best case scenario and fairly underwhelming in an average situation. So I don't think she's a bad champion. Like, I don't think she's unplayable or horrible. I just don't think she's a champion that screams, rank me, use me, I'm going to be best for this fight pretty much ever. As always, I'm sure there will be people whose, favorite champion is going to be Captain Britain Betsy, and I do not intend to try and talk down to anyone. We like the champions that we like. For instance, I absolutely love using Man-Thing. It doesn't mean that the Man-Thing is an amazing champion. No, he's not, especially offensively. And similarly to Captain Britain, if you enjoy the champion, cool. If she proves us that she has the potential to go higher, I'll move her higher. But initially, from what I have seen, I do not find, more value in her than I would, for instance, with Havoc or with Sauron or Toad on champions like that. So I'm putting her in useful with hopes that she's going to prove herself and be better. And I'm going to follow if there's, some good gameplay uploaded. I know that my teammate, MP Blaze, has her ranked up. He brought her in the war. But again, even those war fights, even against some of the matches where she should be good, I didn't kind of get that feel that this is what you have to do or this is the best thing to do. I got a feeling that you can get away with this in case you do not have better options, which is kind of indicative of these useful or occasionally useful champions. That being said, Diablo is on top of the game. Now, Diablo is one of the champions that I liked since his rework, and I did value very highly, and he was in meta but I do think that it is time to move him at top of the game because he virtually just keeps smashing through everything. And the coolest thing is that he works with and without Liquid Courage Double Edge. He works with or without Mystic Dispersion, pending which fights you're using him for. There's tons of flexibility. And I think what finally kind of made me make the jump would be the last month's experience in Battlegrounds, where Diablo was smashing everything. Diablo was one of the best Wolverine Weapon X counters, and Diablo just put in a ton of work in, crazy matchups. He nuked down things and all sorts of opponents that you wouldn't necessarily immediately want to use Diablo or think that Diablo is going to be best, even with class disadvantage and stuff like that. And I definitely won a lot of Battlegrounds matches with Diablo. On top of that, obviously, he has carried on his usefulness in 7.4, and you do see more and more of Diablo at the very top levels of the game, which kind of fits the definition. So I did figure out that at this point, I do think that we do have relatively solid top 4 Mystic Champion core that goes from Tiger to Doctor Doom to Black Widow, Clairvoyant to Diablo. And I do genuinely believe that those are the best of the best Mystics that we have available here in the game. And I wanted them to be ranked and grouped appropriately as well. That being said, Cersei has also earned a bit of a promotion here for herself because Cersei is doing quite similar things. And Cersei, again, proved her worth as a defender in Battlegrounds. She was one of the toughest champions to get around with if you did not have great counters. But not just that, Cersei's offensive utility has been impressing me more and more and more as well. And that largely revolves around a lot of niche situations, niche strategies, where, for instance, you purposely eat 4 combos to the face, basically taking no damage because all of that gets glanced, and if Cersei is awakened, you can end up healing a bit and get to level 2 immediately. And glancing and awaken ability can make that work. Additionally, whilst the glancing buff is active, you can parry and duplicate the abilities that Captain America Sam Wilson has or Proxima has, where opponent's ability accuracy is reduced and you can switch off plenty of nodes. So Cersei might not necessarily be the obvious choice for several of the fights, but a lot of people would be surprised how many hard matchups she can get away with. And I have been seeing more and more Cersei being used, ranked up, and more members of community kind of opened their eyes to Cersei, and myself included. I have been purposely trying to use this champion more. Most recently, I used her in several incursion runs where, again, she just had just enough utility to get away with being able to handle a lot of fights where, you wouldn't necessarily imagine it being possible. For instance, against, really stacked Hulkbuster, where Hulkbuster does inflict shock on Cersei, but her Shroud still gets away with it. Then on top of that, she's also very tanky and very safe champion to play. And I think the initial error a lot of people make with Cersei is trying to get that max amount of Furies, trying to, go for double level 2s to get 2 stacks of Furies, to have 15 total Furies and have the very top tier maximum damage. You don't need to do that. Just throw in that one level 2 with like 10, 11, 12 transmutations, and that's it. Then job's done. And then after that, you're free to spam your level 1s or play however you please, and never have to forcefully try and kind of like rush to keep up the very, very max damage output on Cersei. It's kind of unnecessary. Plus, that healing on level 2 can also be very useful in certain situations, and level 3 obviously does offer fairly good nuke, which does seem to be quite valuable. Additionally, I did include this month's champion update here, where I did move Gamora up a tier from basically the whatever tier to occasionally useful, because realistically she did become somewhat easier to use and manage. I don't think too much change. I don't think it was like the greatest of the buffs, but objectively she is better now and she can be useful. It's still not necessarily a champion I would personally recommend investing a ton of resources. But if you like Gamora, if you are a big Gamora fan, I do believe that you will be able to get use out of her. And I think that's about it as far as the changes go. Psycho Man is still wherever it was, who cares kind of category. And I did not make more changes at the moment to the list. And I do have, as I mentioned, several top tier and mid-level changes that I'm kind of thinking about. But again, I do not want to rush in these changes, and I do not want to just change things up for the sake of changing things up to, stretch out these videos, or how to make sure that these, tier lists are consistently changing one way or another. So I will leave a link to this sheet in the video description. As I mentioned, I will keep updating it every month. I will keep moving champions up and down. Do not want to get overly carried away with it. Let me know which champions you think are over or underrated at the moment. For instance, I personally think Joe Fixit, Spider-Ham, and Overseer are also champions that are on the rise. And I wanted to explain the tiers, which I should have probably done in the very beginning. When I say top of the game, I mean creme de la creme, the very, very, very best champions in the game at the moment. When I say meta, that's very close to that. Those are the champions that you use for the hardest stuff in the game. Those are the champions that you immediately go and pick for Alliance Quest, for Alliance War, for hardest content in the game. If Grandmaster's Gauntlet would come back, those are the champions that you would largely rely on. If Summer of Pain comes back, then these are the kind of like two lists of champions that you immediately gravitate towards too. And then everything else is virtually self-explanatory. Frequently useful champions are champions that are not necessarily the very best in their categories or what they do, but champions that frequently answer specific problems, and you have a significant benefit having ranked these champions up, and you can be very ease at mind that these champions will put in work if you put in catalyst in those champions. Useful champions are just that, champions that are fine, champions that can still be somebody's favorite, champions that will be able to help you with some bits of their utility at times, but they are not necessarily the champions that you immediately run to clear content. You don't necessarily grab your Mephisto when you need, Mystic Champion, or you do not necessarily grab your Silver Surfer when you need a quick Cosmic Champion for questing. Those are champions that have their use, have their abilities, that can do things well, but not necessarily the champions that you immediately run to. Occasionally useful is effectively just, again, self-explanatory, champions that you use because you want to use, largely. Those are the champions that you typically like to mess around with. Those are the champions that you might like a lot, and that's why you use them. And then there might be like that one path in Act 7 where they're very good at. But typically those are the champions, if people rank them up, then they rank them because they like them a lot, not because they would answer the most problems or sort out the issues that you're having. These are not normally the champions that are the target/goal oriented rank ups. Aside from perhaps defense, obviously, because we do have like Man-Thing and Man-Gong and stuff like that in here. And useless, borderline, and playable, insignificant champions are just the worst. The champions that are outdated, the champions that carry very little value at their current states in the game, in my opinion. Either way, that is it for today's video. I do hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button, hit that sub button. As I mentioned, I will leave the link to this spreadsheet in the video description, and I shall see you guys later. See ya. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the next